Nobody tells you this about your 20s and 30s, but the feeling of being lost usually has nothing to do with failure. In fact, some of the most lost people look successful from the outside. They have jobs, friends, goals, relationships, routines, and yet, somewhere beneath all of it, something feels disconnected, like they're living a life they never consciously chose. What's strange is that this feeling often appears after you've done everything you were supposed to do. You went to school, worked hard, made plans, tried to build a future. So why does it still feel like something is missing? And why are so many people quietly asking themselves the same question, even when their lives seem perfectly fine? The answer goes much deeper than most people realize. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that has become incredibly common. Not physical exhaustion, existential exhaustion. You wake up tired, even after sleeping. You reach goals that once felt important, and the satisfaction disappears almost immediately. You stay busy, constantly busy, but somehow, your life feels emotionally distant from you, almost like you're watching it happen, instead of living it. And that creates a strange contradiction. You don't feel completely unhappy, but you don't feel fully alive either. You're stuck somewhere in between, and that in-between state can last for years. What makes it worse is that nobody prepares you for it. Most people assume adulthood eventually arrives with clarity, that one day you'll wake up knowing exactly who you are, exactly what you want, exactly where you're going. But reality is much messier, and that's where the real story begins. From a very young age, we're taught how to succeed. We're rarely taught how to understand ourselves. Think about it. School teaches performance. Careers reward performance. Social media amplifies performance. Modern life is built around external validation, achievements, status, recognition, visibility. But almost nobody teaches you how to develop an internal sense of identity. And that's a problem. Because if your identity is built entirely on external milestones, what happens after you achieve them? What happens when you get the degree, the promotion, the relationship, the apartment, the lifestyle? Many people expect fulfillment. Instead, they encounter confusion. Because the achievement solved the goal, but it never answered the deeper question. Who am I without all of this? And that question terrifies people. Not because it's difficult, because it's honest. But this is only part of the story. There's an even deeper reason so many people feel lost. When you're young, your life follows a script. Parents, teachers, society, culture, everyone provides direction. Even when you disagree with it, the structure exists. Then something unexpected happens. You enter your 20s and 30s, and for the first time, the script starts disappearing. Suddenly, nobody can tell you what your life should look like. And that's when many people experience a hidden identity crisis. Not because they don't have options, because they have too many. Too many careers, too many lifestyles, too many beliefs, too many paths, too many versions of themselves they could become. Modern freedom sounds empowering, but psychologically, unlimited freedom often creates paralysis. The mind becomes overwhelmed. You start comparing your path to everyone else's, questioning every decision, wondering if you're falling behind, wondering if you've already made the wrong choice. And social media intensifies this feeling. Every scroll becomes evidence that somebody else has figured life out. At least, that's how it appears. But appearances can be incredibly deceptive. Because behind many successful-looking lives, the same confusion exists, the same uncertainty, the same silent questioning. Most people simply hide it better. Here's what most people miss. Feeling lost is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes, it's evidence that something is waking up. Think about it. You can only feel disconnected from a life that no longer fits You can only question old identities after you've started outgrowing them. And that's why this experience feels so uncomfortable. The version of you that once provided certainty is beginning to break apart. But the next version hasn't fully formed yet. You're standing between two identities. And psychologically, that's one of the most unstable places a human being can occupy. Most people interpret that instability as failure. It isn't. It's transition. The problem is that transition rarely feels inspiring while you're living through it. It feels confusing, lonely, uncertain, sometimes even frightening. But nearly every meaningful transformation begins this way. Not with confidence, with uncertainty. Not with answers, with questions. And maybe that's why so many people misunderstand this period of life. They're trying to escape the discomfort, when the discomfort itself may be pointing toward growth. Imagine spending years climbing a ladder, working harder, moving faster, sacrificing more, only to discover the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. That's what many people experience in their late 20s and early 30s. Not because they failed, because they finally stopped long enough to ask whether the destination actually belonged to them. And that's a powerful question, because some lives are built from genuine desire. Others are built from expectation. Expectation from family. Expectation from society. Expectation from culture. Expectation from comparison. The moment you begin separating those expectations from your authentic self, life becomes uncomfortable, but it also becomes real. And perhaps that's the hidden purpose of feeling lost. Not to punish you, not to break you, but to force a confrontation with a question you've avoided for years. What do I actually want? Not what impresses people, not what looks successful online, not what everyone else expects. What do you want? The answer to that question changes everything. Maybe the reason you feel lost isn't because you're failing. Maybe it's because you're finally becoming conscious. Conscious of the scripts you inherited. Conscious of the expectations you've been carrying. Conscious of the life you've been building on autopilot. And once you see those things, you can't unsee them. The truth is, clarity rarely arrives before uncertainty. It usually arrives because of uncertainty. The people who eventually find direction are not always the ones with the best plans. They're often the ones willing to sit with difficult questions, long enough to discover honest answers. So if you're in your 20s or 30s and you feel lost, don't rush to escape the feeling. Pay attention to it. It may be revealing something you've needed to see for a very long time. Because sometimes, the moment you feel most lost is actually the moment you're closest to finding yourself. And maybe that's the part nobody tells you. The path isn't found by knowing exactly where you're going. It's found by becoming honest about who you are. If you're interested in understanding yourself a little more deeply, subscribe. Because this channel isn't about giving you more noise. It's about helping you hear the thoughts you've been trying to ignore.